Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 35th Annual Small Farm Conference. My name is Beatriz, and I work with Community Alliance with Family Farmers, and I am excited to see you all trickling in slowly in the participant list. It's so nice to have such a wide audience. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you to this amazing panel for being here and offering different perspectives on this amazing topic. So if you're here for advancing equity for BIPOC entrepreneurs, you're in the right place. Please, I'm going to lay up some ground rules before we start to please keep that chat kind, constructive, and to please put your questions in the Q&A section. This really helps our panelists here keep track of those questions, not lose them in the chat where we're all having amazing conversation. So please use that Q&A for them to keep this nicely organized. At the end of this webinar, there will be a little survey that will pop up. So if y'all can please give us some feedback, that would be amazing. And lastly, I want to remind everyone that this is being recorded and some of these sessions will end up on our YouTube channel. So you can also further see them there if you miss anything. But please keep an eye on that chat for emails or any information our panelists have here today. All right. And without further ado, I'm going to let this wonderful panel take it away.
Right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining. Oops. Skipped a step there. Thank you for joining our webinar on advancing equity for BIPOC entrepreneurs at the farmers market. Here we have a slide for the CAF, California Alliance of Farmers Markets, where we will be hearing from someone from CAF.
Thank you. My name is Putri Kuzdarman and I use she, her pronouns. And as some of you may have heard earlier this morning, the Farmers Market track at the California Small Farm Conference is put on in collaboration with the California Alliance of Farmers Markets, where we are a member-based organization that is dedicated to promoting the direct farmer-to-consumer relationship, supporting small independent farmers, increasing the integrity and security of the future of the certified farmers markets throughout California. I'll be pasting a little bit of information and a link to our website. So looking forward to seeing some new applicants come through from today and this week. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're getting started, everybody. Hello, welcome. This will be our agenda for today. So please take time to look over that. Intros, presentations, you'll hear from me, from Foodwise, Mandela Partners, and Mango Say. We'll have discussions and questions at the end. All right, before we begin, we ask that you please hold space for these agreements, being consistently present and open to learning, being respectful to anyone speaking. Please use the chat feature for questions or maybe the Q&A feature for questions. I will have plenty of time to discuss at the end. Don't hesitate to ask a question, share your knowledge and experience, and most importantly, have fun. Right? And if you could use the chat feature to let us know, like share your name and where you're coming from today. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank our panelists and our guests for being great community partners, but also taking the time to share the work that they're doing. And without further ado, I will share a few words about each of them. All right, first up, we have Sabine Dabady with a master's in public health, who is the Entrepreneurship Development Manager with Mandela Partners. And raised in Brooklyn, New York to Haitian immigrants, Sabine is grateful for the path that brought them to California and now Mandela Partners. In 2015, they moved to the Bay Area to complete a graduate degree in public health at UC Berkeley. In their role as Entrepreneur Development Manager, Sabine collaborates with East Bay entrepreneurs in service to promoting their businesses and contributing to positive shifts in community, wealth, and health. They lead Mandela Partners Food Business Pathways workshops, coaching, and sales channels which center early-stage BIPOC-led micro-businesses. In their free time, Sabine swims regularly to keep them sane and hopes to complete a non-competitive swim from Alcatraz. Welcome, Sabine. Right. Okay, next we have Samiha Hamdi, who's the Farm Partnership Manager, also with Mandela Partners. Samiha, using she, they pronouns, grew up mostly in the Midwest as a first-generation Pakistani immigrant. She has worked in various roles within the field of agroecology, permaculture, land sovereignty, farmer advocacy and support, and climate justice throughout the Bay Area, Huichin lands, and beyond. Her passion for all things agroecology and justice was strengthened during her time in Peace Corps Panama, where she served as a community agro-environmental conservation agent. In 2022, Samiha graduated with a master's in international agricultural and rural development and Indigenous studies from Cornell University. She is grateful to be here. Thanks. Right. And last, we have Sierra Young, the owner of Mango Say, which is a mobile mango cart offering berry-free mango smoothies with a seasonal mango menu. She created her business through her love of mangoes and wanted to share the many ways to incorporate mangoes, from mango juice, mango noodles, mango parfaits, mango sticky buns, and much more. Right now, Sierra is part of Foodwise's Ferry Plaza Farmers Market on Saturdays, and you can usually catch her across the Bay Area serving up mango goodies at different markets and locations. Welcome, Sierra. Right. Okay, so I'll begin into my presentation about advancing equity in BIPOC entrepreneurs at farmers markets. First, we'll give a little bit about myself. I'm Andrea Akers. I'm the operations manager for Foodwise. Born and raised in San Francisco's Chinatown. Been with Foodwise for about 13 years now, and just being a lover of all things food and people, really wanting to be a part of this community, working with sellers, working with new entrepreneurs, upcoming entrepreneurs, working with the youth, seeing the next generation grow and learn, and wanting to be more involved in food is great. And so I take great pride in being a part of this community. So thank you. All right, and next I'll give a little overview about our market and our organization. So Foodwise, formerly Quesa, is a nonprofit that's been around for about 30 years. We operate the Ferry Plaza Farmers Market and the Mission Community Markets here in San Francisco. And we also offer a range of education programs for kids and adults wherever they may be in their food journey. Right. Thanks for all the love. I see the hearts rolling in. Very much appreciated. Our vision and mission. Foodwise is dedicated to growing thriving communities through the power and joy of local food. We envision a world that nourishes all people, local economies, and the living earth. We serve over 130 local farmers and food makers. There are thousands of market customers regularly shopping the market, including a lot of families who use the CalFresh EBT program. And we also have over 3,000 youth that we work with in the SFUSD with our free education programs, such as Foodwise Kids, Foodwise Teens, and Foodwise Families. We also work with over 200 chefs and restaurants in the Bay, connecting them directly to the farmers, building relationships so that they can buy some of the freshest produce in the state. Right. Why anti-racist work is needed at farmers markets. With farmers markets being historically white spaces, we feel it's important to prioritize bringing back BIPOC businesses to the forefront. Making sure that they have access and affordability is just one way in creating one piece of the puzzle and creating an equitable excuse me, an equitable food system. Markets must reflect the communities they're located in and all the diversity that they bring. Right, a little bit about our DEIJ journey: diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. In 2016, we adopted the equity commitment with a combination of board and staff, deciding that it was way overdue and time to take action. And in 2019, we deepened our commitment and have then since created a work plan throughout the organization across all of our departments. We focus all of our work centering DEIJ in our markets to make them more equitable and inclusive. Right, our Building Equity program. So this is a program that we started over 15 years ago and just recently decided to formalize it. This program really focuses on BIPOC and immigrant entrepreneurs in the Bay Area, giving them opportunities to gain direct access to customers and really build their business. We work closely with our community partners and our participants to make sure that their business is growing through financial, technical, and marketing support. I'll share a little bit about that in a minute. But definitely having a relationship with our community partners is vital and key to us, because they're the folks who are working one-on-one with these entrepreneurs, helping them build their business, but also making sure that they're ready to participate in markets and events. We currently have 3 community partners and working on potentially building or working with the 4th one this year. So that's very exciting. Yeah. So some of our community partners, we have La Cocina, who's an SF-based nonprofit out of the Mission District, focusing on women and immigrant-owned businesses. We started our partnership with La Cocina in 2017, which what really kicked off the Building Equity program. And each month, La Cocina highlights a rotating business at our Saturday markets. Next up, we have Mandela Partners, based out of West Oakland. They're a nonprofit organization working with families, farmers, and community-based businesses, creating wealth and improving health in communities with limited resources. Our partnership began with Mandela back in 2018 at Jacqueline Square in Oakland. And we currently work with Mandela with pop-up vendors on a quarterly basis at our markets at the Ferry Building and also in the Mission. And you'll hear more about Mandela from Sabine and Samiha in just a little bit. Right. And last, we have Into Action. Into Action provides a culinary boot camp for Black-owned businesses in SF's Bayview through their Jama Kitchen program. And it's a 6-month boot camp that gives them guidance and a commercial kitchen space to use, and also workforce development. And we started our partnership with the Into Action just last year in April. And we have rotating businesses pop up at our weekday markets here at the Ferry Building. So it's been great to work with them. And it's been great to work with everyone. This is why we do this work. Having these community partners is really, what keeps it going. We don't do any of this work on our own. So some of the the support that we provide, we have our technical assistance, where we're meeting up with the participating vendors. They'll come to the market. We show them where they're going. We have, site visits, show them where they're going to go, introduce them to their neighbors, go through all the channels, laws and regulations, market rules, things that they need to know before coming to the market, and definitely supporting them in any of their needs, whether it's needing to borrow equipment for the day and things like that. So working with them all the way around to support any of their needs. Our financial support looks like breaking down some of the barriers participants may have. With BIPOC and immigrant businesses, there's definitely obstacles in financial help all around. So breaking, taking apart some of that off of their plate, it definitely helps break down some of their barriers. We apply for and cover all the costs for the health fees, the fire permits, and any sponsor permitting fees that may come up. And we also waive our annual application fee as well. With our marketing and promotion, you can definitely catch our communications team working directly with the vendors, one-on-one, promoting them through social media or on our website, writing a story about them. We have over like 30,000 visitors on our website. So it's a good way to get them out there, share what they're doing, and kind of get them the exposure that they need, but also sharing their stories too. And they also have a chance to work with all of our departments across the board, whether it's doing a live cooking demo or being in communications with our development programs, doing community events. Which leads us, speaking of community events, we had a Juneteenth on the waterfront that we launched in 2021. And that inspired, like, it was such a success that it inspired a series of events that we're going to have called the pop-ups on the plaza. And that's on the Weta Plaza here at the Ferry Building. And our first one will be celebrating Black women makers on March 25th. So definitely stop by if you're around and looking to have a good time. Some of our sponsors include the SF Human Rights Commission and the Port of San Francisco. And so we'll have like family activities, music, you know, definitely food and drinks. So if you're in the mood for a good time and a good experience, please come and check us out. All right. See long-term opportunities. We've had over 36 businesses participating in the Building Equity Program last year. And we prioritize these businesses whenever space opens up at our markets. We've had 12 of those businesses become permanent at our markets, and many others have opened their own brick and mortars, and we support all of them. Here are some of those businesses that are permanent in our markets. Mango Say being the newest addition. So yay, Mango Say. And also in this picture, you'll see Crumble and Wisconsin Foods. Some of them you're familiar with. They might be in your market. They might be your friends. They're definitely my friends. So yes, these are success stories. All right, and here are some quotes from a couple of our current vendors and also former vendors. We have Beanie's Kitchen here, who's just lovely to work with. Her and her team really make you feel like you're a part of their family. And it's been great to work with them over the years. Love all the support that they bring and share. And yeah, it's just Beanie's just awesome. And we also have Reem, who we've also had an honor of working with over the years here in the city and also in Oakland. Reem she's now opened up multiple locations, with her most recent one being here at the Ferry Building. So please come check her out. And so, yeah, give me one here. Right. So the tips and takeaways that I have for everyone here today would be, like, number one, identifying community partners, you know, in your neighborhood, you know, or in, you know, just identifying community partners who are working one-on-one with the entrepreneurs and doing the groundwork for these businesses and forming a partnership with them. Definitely setting clear expectations and forming an MOU between organizations. Working with your current sellers, like making sure the whole market knows why they, you know, should be supportive of these businesses, and definitely open communication and listening to your sellers, because it's just like communication is key, you know. And last but not least, being flexible and supporting in any way you can, knowing that things come up, you know. And so it's just everyone being on the same page, just being as flexible as possible is a great help, right? So I like to say thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it, all your time. And yes, my info is on here. You can reach me directly, Andrea at foodwise.org. You can also stay in touch with us by visiting, visiting our website, but also following us on our social media platforms. And now I'm going to pass it over to Sabine. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Just give me a second while I do the Zoom presentation toggle. Appreciate your patience. All right. Great, I think everyone can see everything. So my name is Sabine. I use they, them pronouns, and just want to say thank you to the organizers. Organizing in person is a lot of effort. Organizing in Zoom is a lot of effort. So thank you to them. I appreciate the invitation from our partners at Foodwise to be here to share more about our work that we do at Mandela Partners. I will be sharing kind of the work that I do with entrepreneurs launching at farmers markets or popping up at farmers markets and in general. My colleague Samiha will share more about their work that they do with farmers in a little bit. And of course, we will have a voice from an entrepreneur herself, Sierra Young, the owner of Mango Say, who could put a lot of, will let you know how the rubber meets the road with an entrepreneur being at the market and hopefully crystallize some of the ideas we'll be sharing. And I just want to start off in this image. The person who's pouring the eggs in a skillet is Lauren Johnson of Lojo's Tacos. And Lauren came through Mandela Partners through a colleague who was there at the time and did a workshop series. And specifically the first day that Lauren popped up at the Ferry Plazas Market on a Saturday, Lauren had prior experience working in food retail and in kitchens, but the market starts at 8. By 10 o'clock, she was out of eggs. So I think that essentially, I just want to start off with the context that like farmers markets are really opportunities and places for people to grow their capacity and learn really quickly and how to scale up and make improvements in operations. And hopefully we'll just be able to focus on that during our conversation. So a few things I hope that you take away from this talk today. One is to learn more about Mandela Partners. Not sure how many of you already know about Mandela Partners, but to learn about our food-centered and food-based work with businesses and farmers, to learn some more about the opportunities and barriers that the BIPOC businesses that we work with kind of have to navigate in order to sell at farmers markets, and some potential recommendations based upon our experience, how farmers markets can be points to increase access and opportunity for Black and Brown, Indigenous, et cetera, entrepreneurs of color and entrepreneurs. So Mandela Partners was founded in West Oakland and has since expanded work in Oakland and unincorporated Alameda County. And my colleague Samiha will mention more parts in Central California where a lot of our farmers are, but food is really at the core of what we do. And essentially a lot of the strategies that were created were really centered around maximizing access through local corner stores and groceries, connection with farmers, supporting entrepreneurship, people who have side hustles and want to commit to them more formally, need some navigation, residents who are exploring business ideas, and of course, providing nutrition education and wellness education in a more holistic manner to make those connections, all for the purposes of building health and wealth in more vital and thriving communities. Specifically, a deeper dive into some of our work in entrepreneurship. It's kind of a three-pronged aspect of things, entrepreneurship and food and employment, excuse me. We have Regenerate Opportunity, which is a culinary training program around 5 weeks, for about 5 weeks or so, folks who have barriers to employment, who might have been systems impacted, formerly incarcerated, might have had long gaps in their employment history, get training, then get placed in restaurant businesses and food-based businesses to build employment. We have an incubator space in Ashland, California, which is just south of San Leandro, now called East 14th Eatery and Kitchen, formerly Ashland Market and Cafe. It's a space in which 3 businesses can launch their businesses in our community food hall, and also build their business and build their expertise and clients. Samiha will probably speak more about Mandela produce distribution later. And then the work that I'm really centered around doing is our Mandela Partners Food Business Pathways work. And that's work that we do through workshops, coaching, and sales channels. The workshop piece is really the educational piece, providing foundations for business learning and education. The coaching piece is a one-on-one space where goal setting is anchored for entrepreneurs to name the goals they want to achieve, and we work alongside them to do that. It's about 6 to 9 months of time. And then sales channels is where the opportunity is to actually sell their goods. And in this photo here is Jamila Lane, the owner of Melonade, a quartz-infused juice-based business. They're really delicious drinks. Jamila was one of our entrepreneurs who kind of did all the work in the workshops, coaching, and sales channels, and also participated in the mission market last year in the fall. Okay, so I kind of shared a little bit the what we do, and I just want to share a little bit why we do what we do at Mandela Partners. So I just want to underscore that food-based entrepreneurs, well, I first want to say that folks of color are critical to our food system, critical to the labor of it. And it's not enough that they're just critical to the labor of it, but they should have agency and be able to drive and determine how it operates as well. So above all, food-based entrepreneurs feed our community in many ways. Also too, especially in COVID, we see that food-based businesses are ways in which people can continue to thrive in difficulty. And ultimately, because everyone has to eat, there's a real opportunity for folks to enter business through creating food-based businesses. And it just has a lower barrier, if you will, to kind of see if it works. People have hopes and dreams, and the capacity to support their hopes and dreams through their food businesses and business in general is really important to us. And then lastly, in the context of being an entrepreneur, the purpose is to make some money and support your family. And so that in general, working with partners like Foodwise and other opportunities and channels to help build capacity and make those sales are really important. And trying to find money in a brick and mortar space is often really difficult. Farmers markets are an opportunity for folks to gain entry into that space. Andrea spoke a little bit about our partnership with Foodwise, which started in 2018. Just want to shout out a former staff member, Jonathan Fong, when Foodwise was Kwesa, who really saw the opportunity to connect with us and provide the Jack London Farmers Market, where Kwesa used to operate, as a space for people to test their businesses and pop up. Initially, it was the context of about a month so time, about each Sunday, 4 or 5 Sundays, and that existed for about 2 years before COVID hit. And of course, when COVID hit, we kind of paused, but we resumed that partnership in the summer of 2021. And has since kind of shifted a little bit of what that looks like for both the capacity of our staffing and then also to provide entrepreneurs more time to be at the markets. So moving from about being there about a month, so 4 or 5 dates, to kind of looking at quarters so that people have more time to build their clientele, build their operations, and really kind of test out the space for that. So the one thing I want to say is that when most entrepreneurs are beginning to dive into a farmer's market, they've probably done some pop-ups before, right? But even if the pop-up has exists, it can be a real kind of shift from how they've been operating regularly. I think operating farmers markets pushes you to operate in a new way because one, you're often outside and have to kind of set up and break down in a new way that is a little bit difficult. And so I just provide this slide here as a context to kind of think about the preliminary things that people need from moving from their home in parts to kind of operating in markets. And so Andrea shared a little bit before, based upon like what our partnership is based upon, but above all, especially for folks who are just starting out, I want to underscore that early stage entrepreneurs are often exploring the idea. And so in exploring the idea, you're still like trying to work through things, you're trying to build systems, you're trying to figure out your product. And so a kind of commitment might not always be there, which is okay and should be available to people to be able to understand what it is that they need in order to grow. And often for a lot of the folks that we work with, that capital piece is really hard. There's a lot of money that needs to be readily available in order to launch at a market. So one, having capital for things like equipment, for things like permits, for things like transportation are necessary. We've learned the hard way that sometimes people don't have reliable transportation. Some people still don't have driver's licenses, right? And so these are all things that people still need in order to operate from moving from their home and maybe an informal capacity into a more a larger space. Andrea mentioned those permits, those health permits and insurance, both which can be really costly and also just really difficult to navigate and understand what is needed. I also want to underscore a lot of the folks that we work with are parents. A lot of the folks that we work with are caregivers. So there's one, that emotional support that is needed, as everyone needs emotional support. And then also too, if you're caregiving, you need someone to relieve your caregiving duties, which means that as of now, our kind of caregiving or childcare system or caregiving system is pretty precarious. So that's certainly an opportunity to improve. But in the context, at least of the folks that we work with, having a caretaker be able to alleviate your needs is really critical. And also too, you need access to a commercial kitchen space if you're not kind of permitted or operating from a cottage food license, if you will. Commercial kitchens are increasing in price and then also decreasing in availability. So both of those things kind of come together to sometimes make it difficult for people to be able to launch at a farmer's market. Andrea talked a little bit about that technical assistance of understanding the navigations for applying for a temporary permit at the farmer's market, to be able to understand what is needed, to be able to understand what the equipment requirements are. Kind of shared a little bit about that equipment piece. You know, the same pot that you use to cook on your stove is not the same pot that you might use to cook at the farmer's market, or kind of more commercial grade appliances and equipment. And then also too, generally speaking, especially if you're preparing food, you need employees, which is, again, people that you have to pay, people that you have to train, and then also, above all, the patience and flexibility to navigate all these systems as people are building capacity is really critical. And thinking about, just to note, these asterisks are all kind of things that Foodwise has provided in our partnership to support and make it a little less difficult for people to kind of leave their homes or leave their kind of one-off pop-up situations into more consistent, at least temporary opportunities. Cool. So I kind of shared a moment before what folks need to kind of leave their home space into a farmer's market space, and kind of want to turn the table to think about if you have a farmer's market space, what could you potentially offer to BIPOC entrepreneurs, especially as you're building your capacity, specifically to do this work in a more anchored and grounded way. Above all, the commitment has to be there. I hope you're not exploring equity and justice, but really trying to find ways to build it and anchor it and commit to it. So that is really an underlining importance of that. You know, I mentioned before that Jonathan Fong really kind of spearheaded this, but it's really important that your leadership is really about this and supporting this work too, because without that, these initiatives will not seed and grow. It's important to really think about what it means to create a welcoming environment to host BIPOC entrepreneurs. We started the conversation naming that farmers markets are historically white spaces, often historically kind of not necessarily elitist, but kind of higher income spaces, right? So how are you making your market welcoming to a broader range of entrepreneurs is a really critical question for you to think about. Again, folks who are starting out early are trying to build capacity all the time. Entrepreneurship is a really iterative process. you're learning all the time. And so what kind of patience and flexibility are you extending to folks who are learning and building and trying to grow, as well as the technical assistance to just be able to navigate different systems which are inherent to their growth and sometimes a part of the barriers for their success. I want to underscore that farmers markets provide significant access to networks of other providers and growers, networks of chefs and other cooks, networks of other businesses, as well as the networks kind of behind the scenes on the admin end. So the capacity that you have to extend your networks to entrepreneurs is critical, as well as that marketing piece and helping support their visibility. And I just want to also just really underscore this idea of rethinking market fit. I think that Andrea shared the quote from Beanies, who sells like Nepalese food. And I want to underscore that like fit can sometimes be a way in which biases are perpetuated. And if you're really trying to expand who sells at your market, as well as who might shop at your market, really reconsidering who you think will fit as a seller needs to be considered, especially if you're trying to test out new opportunities for folks to grow in the market or for them to just test their ideas. And basically all these things on the other side that I just spoke about are largely intangible. So there's not necessarily any material resources that takes to do it. It really just takes intent and practice to put them in place. And then the last piece is really thinking about what kind of funding might you be able to support with, or what kind of costs might you be able to offset, and especially to build into your grant applications if that is needed, as well as that health permits and insurance piece. Excuse me. I want to just underscore and say that just a few things as I'm wrapping up. At Mandela Partners, because we work with a lot of folks who are in their early stages of business, that I think traditional methods and ways of measuring success are a little bit more nuanced. And so I want to share some ways that we think about success for the people that we work with. So, the capacity for someone to improve their operations and organization, that is a success for us. Kind of this idea that Lauren initially didn't have eggs or ran out of eggs at 10, and then was able to then not only grow and find more opportunities to sell out at the farmer's market, but also to kind of get a permanent spot for herself at another one is an opportunity for success for us. The ability to build relationships and network is really important. Someone's ability to build their self-confidence in their product, as well as their self-confidence in their capacities, is critical. The expansion of one's visibility is important for success. Someone refining their pricing and moving past break even is really great. It takes a little bit of time sometimes for folks to earn revenue, but being able to at least not lose money is really great. And then of course the experience of being able to navigate your next steps as a business owner and how you want to further your vision is really important for us. And it kind of speaks to a determination and agency as well. Some just quotes from people, from entrepreneurs who participated in the farmers market experience with Foodwise on a temporary basis. Don't be afraid to ask for help, plan properly. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Always have a backup plan, follow up with your customers. Great experience, great learning experience. The moment I felt most ready, I was done with a pop-up. And lastly, really think about how flow of service will be. Think about the steps if you're cooking on-site versus prepping in advance and transportation. So these are just some things that people kind of shared with me based upon their experience, and just impart the notions that I said about success before, as well as, just ultimately building capacity in operations. I will not ask for takeaways. Well, maybe if you want to like pepper the Q&A box with some takeaways, we'd love to see that. Or if there are questions that you have as we are transitioning into my colleague's presentation, please feel free to leave that. And then also we'll just share thanks for listening to me today and my colleagues. And these are just ways which you can reach out to me. So I will pause here stop sharing my screen and pass it on to Samiha.
Hey, thank you so much, Sabine, for sharing that. That was great. Let me just get my screen share set up. Okay. Hello, everyone. So my name is Samiha. I also work at Mandela Partners with Sabine. I am the Farm Partnerships Manager. And as Sabine mentioned, I work out of the Produce Distribution Hub, which is our kind of community-based food hub in West Oakland. And so I primarily work with farmers that are located mostly through the Central Valley, mostly through Pajaro Valley area, Watsonville area. And so my work is slightly different than what Sabine will be sharing. And just some grounding principles before we really get into it, that I would like to name that this presentation doesn't detail a universally applicable pathway towards, resolving racism, but is more kind of an initial resource and a call for, as both of my colleagues mentioned, Sabine and Andrea, a really long-standing commitment that's grounded in relationality and building partnerships. And I'd also just like to name that I am on the home territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone peoples, Wechin, calling in from Oakland right now. And again, I will name this throughout the presentation, but that this is really work that's grounded in relationality. And we're really working to build authentic partnerships and relationships with BIPOC producers and BIPOC entrepreneurs. And just a note about equity and intersectional equity. I'm sure many of us are familiar with this work, but I just want us to be aware of, the different forms of equity and the different intersections and points that we can really highlight and name here. So when thinking about comprehensively advancing equities for BIPOC producers and BIPOC entrepreneurs, I think it's really important to not minimize or erase other intersections such as class equity, legal status, ability levels, relationality to land and displacement, but really taking into account these points as well. And I think I'd also just like to name that we're all essentially forced to operate under a system of capitalism, which is forcing us to extract social and economic value from BIPOC producers. So this is a way to minimize some of that. And again, just naming what's already been named, that this is a more than lifelong commitment. It's something that will be passed on intergenerationally and is an active and daily practice, and is not something that is easily going to be solved, but something that requires committing time, resources, energy, tangible, material resources, as well as creating new policies and setting new precedents, and is hard labor. And I won't go into the details of this too much, but I think many of us are aware of the history of US agriculture and land tenureship that is inseparable from the history and ongoing present day US racism that BIPOC producers and entrepreneurs are facing in this work. And here's some just kind of broad strokes of advancing equity for BIPOC producers. Again, I'm mostly focusing on farmers and produce folks that are feeding us via produce. And this was taken and adapted from Leah Penniman's article, 4 Not So Easy Ways to Dismantle Racism in the Food System. And I think I'll go over these, you'll see these threads throughout the presentation, but one, upholding the people's right to land. So again, just naming that relationships to land has been grounded and predicated in racism and violence. And honoring the people who grow our food. There's not a lot of protections. The US doesn't have a lot of, labor protections or guaranteed safe housing, health insurance, et cetera, for the producers of our food. And then supporting farmers of color and producers of color via access to education, as well as acknowledging the myriad of skills and wisdom and education that our farmers have within them. And I'd also like to say, I don't think I named this previously, but just acknowledging that our solutions are necessarily complex, as are the systems of oppression that we're facing are complex. So yeah, this is kind of an everything and solution guide. And some of the work that Mandela Partners is doing, again, as I mentioned, we're really based in relationality, really wanting to uplift and elevate the voices of farmers and BIPOC producers. We're doing this through a number of ways. The main way that I'm really focusing on doing this is through participatory analysis for community action, which is a community development mechanism or tool, and really utilizing that to understand farmers' barriers to production, barriers to entry into markets, barriers to quality control, barriers to technical assistance, whatever the issue might be, but really just serving as a liaison for uplifting farmer voices. And I'm also aware that Mandela partners in the produce distribution, we're primarily and historically have been working with Latina or Latinx farmers, many of whom are from Mexico. So we might not, in terms of farmers at least, are maybe not the most representative of a diverse kind of group of BIPOC farmers, but I think these are kind of principles and points that relate to any group. Yeah, and also naming that BIPOC producers are also a diverse group of peoples and with their own complex challenges. And then just some more ways that we're really wanting to, again, uplift farmers and have them co-create and implement community-centric solutions. This can happen through different ways. We're really doing this through focus groups, doing this through surveys, on-site farm visits, casual conversation, but just grounding in relationality and trust, and ensuring that farmers can trust us as an ally in their work. And really putting this work in the hands of farmers. So farmers are the ones that are really creating these solutions for themselves and by themselves. And Mandela Partners, the way I see our work is more of just serving as a liaison, as a channel for these voices to be uplifted, and serving as a liaison for access to markets, for technical assistance, and for loan assistance. And some other pieces of work that we're doing is thinking about an approach that's how to approach and onboarding new farmers that really prioritize specific demographics of farmers. So right now, this looks like a brief questionnaire. We also, ask to do an on-site farm visit just to get to know the farmers better. This allows us a little bit more insight into their access to generational wealth, knowing their relationship to land, knowing what resources they have, what class and capital access they might have. And again, just in general, knowing what needs they have and how we could best support them to being producers. So really grounded in relationality again. And yeah, this is just from the mouths of our farmers. We may have created additional revenue for farmers and to our network of family farmers, but again, Dominga Nunez names us as one of, if not the only organizations that has consistently supported her and her family over the years, and really focusing on building that trust and ensuring that she has what she needs to be a producer and to access markets. Other ways that we're really supporting this is we have a harvest to market loan program. I think this program is a great way to offset some of the historical and ongoing discriminatory practices for lending to farmers. And so kind of mitigates the barriers to lending and production, agricultural production. And this is Efren from Avalos Farm who really appreciated our harvest to market loan program. And just in general, kind of supporting farmers to meet their needs in ways that other organizations might not be able to. So if they aren't able to access loans via other organizations, we're really taking this on and kind of leveraging our organizational privilege to support them in that. And the Harvest to Market Loan Program is in partnership with California FarmLink. And it's a program in which we pay farmers upfront for product, and then they pay the loan down in product. And there's always like an MOU, a contract with this. And I think it's also important to employ the principles that Sabine and Andrea shared of just having patience and flexibility, that understanding things happen with our farmers. Another kind of mechanism of our work is the partnerships that, again, Andrea and Sabine have both really highlighted. But I think supporting a network of supportive and kind of cultivating a network of supportive organizations is really important in this work, so that farmers don't feel isolated and that they have a kind of a net to catch them. So For example, during the recent floods and storms that our farmers experienced in January, I'm sure many of you are aware it was really devastating for a lot of farmers. Many of them lost their businesses. And Mandela put out a call to donations for our farmers that have lost a lot of their operations. And this ended up being a super collaborative process with Kitchen Table Advisors and the Stootsky Foundation, and really supporting farmers in the long run. I think that had we not been as collaborative, farmers wouldn't have been as quickly able to recuperate some of their losses. So just, really supporting collaborative partnerships. And then just some like broad scale recommendations for how you and your organization can support farmers of color and BIPOC producers, really engaging and empowering farmers, highlighting their, innate knowledge and wisdom. The producers of our food have skills and knowledge and wisdom that are often not seen and often not highlighted. So really making spaces, creating spaces to uplift and amplify farmers' needs and community-centric solutions that are created by and for BIPOC producers. I think this can happen in a number of different ways, and would love to hear from everyone in the panel, from just everyone that's participating and in the panel, and ways that you've all contributed to this. But the ways that I'm thinking of are, again, focus groups, listening sessions, farmer to farmer training programs where farmers are really sharing their skills with each other, just gatherings for farmers, and specifically in ways which farmers are compensated and acknowledged for their wisdom, their knowledge, their education. Even if they don't have access to formalized education, there's a lot of incredible knowledge that farmers have, and so compensating them for that. So our farmers that are participating in these focus groups are all paid for their expertise, for their opinions, for the long-term commitments that this work is going to be used to inform not only our programming at Mandela Partners, but policies. And we really want to make sure that farmers are acknowledged and compensated for that labor. And then another kind of broad scale recommendation is to really reflect on your organizational privileges, what your organization has that it can leverage, and really reevaluate your commitments. To whom are you committed to? To whom are your resources, your time, your energy, your capital committed to? And when possible, redistributing all of that, redistributing your resources, your energy and time towards BIPOC producers, BIPOC entrepreneurs, and those that are supporting BIPOC producers in different, organizations. Again, acknowledging that this is certainly not going to be like an overnight thing, but that this is a long-term commitment. And so setting realistic expectations for yourself and for others. And then I think one piece that's a little bit more tangible and easier to include is just including language accessibility and cultural relevance in programming and grants. I think that's one of the easiest or one of the most kind of straightforward pieces that you can all include in your work, is really building this into grants, have funding for translators, making sure your programming is culturally relevant. If you're doing workshops, that the demographics can relate to the workshops, that it's not just grounded in people that have had generational wealth or people that have had access to generational land. So yeah, committing yourself to the long-term language accessibility, technological literacy, and cultural relevance. And I think a great way that another example of this is this conference has panels and different sessions in Spanish, highlighting Spanish speakers, and has in-person programming as well towards the end of it. So yeah, making different ways accessible. And as I mentioned, just really leveraging your organizational privileges. So as an organization at Mandela Partners, I think we have a lot more access to foundations, funds, other partnerships, other networks, CDFA, policy influencers than our farmers do as individuals. And so really serving as a liaison and in a way kind of collateralizing ourselves, the organization, and taking on some of that risk to mitigate the risk for BIPOC producers, and really thinking about ways that this can be realistic and tangible, as I think it was Andrea that mentioned, just setting clear expectations for yourself and for your partners, and co-creating mutually beneficial relationships with diverse community partners. Again, I think I've named this multiple times, but just having this be a space of relationality with the folks that you're hoping to serve and communities that are serving them, so that there's not repeating services that maybe aren't actually meeting a need, and so that you can fill gaps that need to be filled. And I think these are maybe two of the more, I don't know, heavyweight recommendations, but for those of us that work with land or have access to, policy organizations, have some weight and clout in other realms that are related to land, really advocating for and permanently protecting land for regenerative food cultivation by Black, Indigenous, people of color led organizations and individuals. I think that's been one of the number one named things in the focus groups, is that farmers are having a really difficult time accessing land and securing that land. So even if they have accessed it, they might be renting it on a yearly basis, and it's not guaranteed after 3 years or something. So thinking about how we can set farmers up, set BIPOC producers up for long-term success, so that it's not just every year they're scrambling to find new land. And again, I think this really relates to some of the floods and recent storms and everything that the farmers have faced as climate change is impending, as we all know. Thinking about how we're really going to advocate for and permanently protect land in the long term and protect land from future climate catastrophes, and how BIPOC producers can be involved in that. So specifically for those of us that are in the realm of policy and working in land tenure, I think this is super important. And then consistently, if not always, employing a racial equity and community-led lens to organizational development, funding, programs. Again, I think this is work that doesn't need to be siloed in kind of one direction, but is really needs to be held across the board and across programming and built long-term into your programs. And recognizing farmers for more than just their product. So working against just monetizing relationships with farmers, but seeing them as whole human beings. Here we have Oya Organics, and this farmer over here on the right is JM Organics, who unfortunately was really affected by the floods. And this is the boss, Jocelyn. She runs everything there, so everyone knows. But yeah, just really seeing farmers for all of what they are and not just focusing on kind of the product and having it be a transactional situation. And then hiring staff and consultants that can really guide you to integrate this work in the long term. So it's advancing equity for BIPOC producers is a part of your work long term and a part of different facets of your work. And then, of course, pet farm doggos. If you like dogs, I highly encourage you to pet farm doggos. I think that's one of the highlights of my job, is getting to pet farm dogs. And just want to name also that this work is can be really challenging. And so take deep breaths, just be open to having hard conversations and being open to transformative change. None of this is going to happen overnight, but as has been mentioned a lot, that this is a long-term commitment and can be really hard and challenging. And then there's some resources here that have been really helpful for me in my process, and I think would be really helpful for others. The first three, I think, are the most relevant to this work: the Anti-Racist Farmers Market Working Group and Toolkit. I haven't personally implemented that formally in our work, but it's certainly informed the way I'm shaping our programs. The National Young Farmers Coalition Racial Equity Toolkit. My understanding is that that's more of kind of an organizational development toolkit, and might not specifically relate to, advancing equity for BIPOC community producers, but certainly will inform it. And then AIM's Racial Equity Fund, if anyone hears from AIMS, if anyone's participating from AIM, please share more about this. But yeah, another great way that's reducing some of the financial barriers for BIPOC producers, similar to Foodwise's kind of racial equity work. And then the article that I shared, Leah Penniman's 4 Not So Easy Ways to Dismantle Racism in the Food System. And the last one is not directly related to advancing racial equity work, but I think is really helpful in just acknowledging the systems of trauma and oppression that have kind of created the need for racial equity work, and it's Leah's Pantry's trauma-informed nutrition work. And then I would also just like to highlight that the Native American Agricultural Fund is hosting a State of Native Agriculture on March 9th. So if you want to hear directly from Indigenous producers what their needs are, I think this would be a really great opportunity to tune into that, and is something that I don't have expertise in, so would highly support that. Yeah, and that is everything. So thank you, everyone. Similar to Sabine, I think maybe we'll save the Q&A and takeaways for after Sierra does her presentation, but really appreciate everyone's time and would love to hear feedback. I'm always open to feedback and questions, and I'm sure there's other folks in the participants that have expertise in this area as well. So thank you, and I will pass it over to Andrea and Sierra.
Thank you, Samiha. That was great. Let me share my screen really quick, folks. All right. So thanks, everybody. And please welcome Sierra Young, the owner of Mango Say. Sierra, I'm just going to start by asking you a few questions and go ahead and jump in when you're ready to answer. All right.
Okay.
We'll start off with describing your products and sharing a bit about your current size and scope of your business. Like, how many employees do you have? Like, how much product do you go through in a day?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Sierra and I'm the owner of Mango Stay. And I guess what I first kind of like to start by is saying that this literally this whole concept of this business that I created was just simply off my passion of mangoes. I literally eat them religiously daily, and during the pandemic, I already kind of had the idea going, but it just kind of gave me extra fuel to just kind of get the ball rolling. So it really there's no like fancy story behind it. It's just literally just off my love of mango. So, and I always love to share that with people first, because everyone is like, why mango? And how did you come up with it? Just simply because I like it. I love it, you know, and there's passion behind it. But most of my products are really just what you probably could get anywhere else. But I guess the mango lovers out there really, you know, are happy that I'm out there. Everything that I do is dairy free. I literally hand cut mango. And I know when Andrea asked me about how many mangoes do I go through daily, I really purchase mango on a weekly basis. So even on a given week, before even entering the farmers market, I was maybe ordering between like 100 and 150 mangoes weekly. And now, since being at the farmers markets, which I'll get later into, I'm probably up to about 250 to almost 300 mangoes weekly. And that's including me doing cutting mangoes for the smoothies, pressing mangoes, pineapples, and limes for the juice. That's also cutting mangoes that I add in for the sticky buns and making the dough for that. The mango noodles are a dish that really comes from South America. I just kind of put my own little spin on it, but it's basically like a concept that it is a raw mango, and you basically noodle it like a zucchini that you would zonoodle in a form, and I just add different seasonings and spices on there. And then, yeah, it's just a really fun, unique dish that I do. Actually, it'll be coming back to the menu March through July. That specific mango that I use, it comes out of Mexico, but the growth season is only like 3 or 4 months. It's like a green, hard mango that I need to kind of zonoodle it. So that product it's only from like March through July that I have it, but I also incorporate different other things that I try to change seasonal. So like in the springtime, I'll have smoothies are all year round. So we'll start there. That's what I'm kind of known for. The smoothies are, I'm not sorry if I'm all over the place, guys. I'm super
Smoothies are
nervous going on.
delicious and great.
But So we'll start with the smoothies. I offer dairy-free smoothies. I offer fresh pressed mango juice that includes fresh mango, pineapple, and lime juice. My seasonal items are gonna be the mango noodles, my also the mango sticky buns, which are like my own twist on a homemade cinnamon roll. And I basically soak the dough in a maple syrup and just add like mango pieces and almond bits and bake it. I do also mango turnovers. So there's also new ideas that I'm also coming up with and creating like a summer mango salsa. So yeah, and right now, having the experience, I literally was just working as a solo team, just doing my own thing, the shopping, the prepping, the setting up, the breakdown, the serving. And I hadn't really thought about hiring anybody, but once I went through the Mandela's Partners Program and then also preparing myself for the farmers market, it did give me the experience of bringing on my first seasonal employee and also having the experience of gaining on what it's like to hire someone. So
Yeah.
right now it's me and another employee.
Oh my goodness. And that's so much to hold. And I would just like to say that I appreciate you every Saturday.
Thank
Getting the
you.
smoothie for
Thank
me is
you.
definitely a highlight of the day. And the stickers, the lovely stickers that you provide, just all around
Yes, you
great.
get free stickers while you're waiting for your order. Yeah, there's like a basket of
Uh-huh.
stickers.
All right, I'll jump into my next question. Um, what are some of the challenges you've experienced in growing your business?
I would probably say the first thing was finding a mango. The first challenge I faced was finding a mango supplier who would supply me with what isn't, working off a small scale for myself. There's businesses like Mango Crazy. I think they're over south in SoCal. There's another business in southern Cupertino, Mango Mango. So those businesses, they're brick and mortars, but they're ordering large scale mango every week, maybe a couple of times out of the week. So for me, it was finding a supplier who wouldn't mind my not so large orders every week. And it was rough at first because I struggled. I struggled with that until I literally was just going into what I would consider a corner market or a corner store, but they're really like the neighborhood market for low income and poverty neighborhoods. I literally was just walking in there one day. They had like a whole case, a whole stand of mango. And I just was asking the guy, how often does he get mango? How, would he be able to help me? And for me, having that conversation with him is really what ultimately jump started me in finding out about Mandela Partners and actually Sabine reaching out to me with me just telling him what I was looking for and what I was trying to do. And he ultimately became like, he's almost 3 years later where I continue to buy my mangoes from now. So just me going in off a whim and just seeing the mangoes outside of his store, he's basically been the one to kind of lead me into the Mandela's Partners program, and also at the same time became my supplier, whether if I need 300 mangoes a week or if I only need 60 due to bad weather or, whatever the case may be, he's there. So that definitely like it started out as a challenge, but ultimately became so much more just me working with him and having that relationship, started with him.
Yeah.
As far as and I would probably say the next challenge that I faced was I think finding places, locations, trying to actually get myself out there, really just what to do next. I have this ideal, I have this creativity, I have a little business sense, but what to do next was like the thing that I was trying to figure out. And I really got to credit I credit most of, where I am at this moment with just the work and the effort that I've put into, but I have to give a lot of credit in the organization of my business and what I fully understand it. Just going through the coaching business of the Mandela's partners, a lot of challenges that I faced. Oh, and finding a commercial kitchen, that was a challenge for me for about 7, 8 months, really, up until the nick of time and joining the farmers market. It was, finding a commercial kitchen, also working on certain permits, so there was major challenges that I faced. And I think after just really being able to kind of go through one by one and be like, okay, I have the supply of mango. Yeah, the commercial kitchen became the next one. And eventually just working and, going through the list of numbers and just, following up with people, reaching out and, really just showing up, I was able to get into a commercial space now.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you have a distributor, that you went through the program. And now that you're, with us on the Saturday markets,
Yeah.
got like a crazy long line going on Saturdays, selling out every week. So it's been great having you. We love all things mango, just like you. So that's great. And
Thank
thank you for
you.
sharing that. Well, but then I'm just like going into the next question. It's like, how has it been for you personally vending at the market on Saturdays? And how have you how have you built your customer base there?
Okay, well, I'll start with the first thing, is low, selling out, and like from 8 to 10. I literally had that experience like two times. I'm like, okay, I am ready for today. I'm ready to take on meeting these people. And like by 11:30, literally we were done. And I was like, oh my God, like I was like, I guess I wasn't ready for today. So I've definitely had that experience. But the first thing, kind of going back to Mandela Partners, was that going through that program, the workshops, and then it eventually led me to the one-on-one coaching that I had. That kind of set me up for success to participate in the farmers market, because for myself, like I say, I was operating it as just kind of doing my own thing, really just trying to figure out. But once I got into Mandela's program, it really kind of cleaned up my vision of what operating as a business is and was. It just really helped me clear up really managing my finances better, really taking into account every little penny, my recipes, really take into account, measuring out those recipes and really being able to charge fairly to the customer, but also making sure that I'm able to still make a living off of it. Really getting into, figuring out customer base, what I wanted for myself for the business. So having that experience for, I believe, like a year, because I started with the workshops in like the fall of 2021. And then I eventually took the opportunity to go ahead and do the one-on-one coaching for, I believe, like 8 to 9 months or so. I may have even extended it to like 10 months just to make sure I really had everything. But so that having that program for small business owners like myself, entrepreneurs, Black women, minority women, that really is like the grounding in a lot of the success that I would say is needed, the support that was given, the resources, a lot of stuff that I didn't have on my own, but that program was able to give me like checklists and like, this is where you are, setting your own goals. So going through all of that and then being able to have the opportunity to participate at the farmers market, those sellout days were really awesome, but also being able to know that, all right, this is where I am for this week, being able to manage, what the finances, what the income was made, what I have to spend, and really notating every little detail. Also getting additional signage to kind of stand out. So there's literally been like there's so much to really say. It's just been like an explosion of just greatness that has come from having the Mandela Partners program that eventually led to the opportunity that everything now, even being able to participate in this conference to share my journey and my story, has just been unbelievable. The people that I'm meeting, the weekly visitors that come. I mean, really, you have people that come weekly. The farmers market is their market. You know, they come for their produce, they come for their vegetables, they come for all of the unique makers that you don't really get anywhere else. And to be a part of that, it has just really been amazing. To be able to have my first employee that is literally, because I've needed here at the farmers market, especially at this particular one at the Ferry Building. It's just a high volume that I wasn't really used to, and being able to connect with so many people that come by, even if they don't order, they're like always looking at the cart. They always want to know, like, oh my God, May, like, so it has been great. I mean, there is not, I'm having to be committed at waking up at like 4 a.m., but I'm okay with that. And then when you talk about the financial side, it has definitely been a boost in my sales. You know, is allow me to say, wow, this could be the year that I really could have a year of solid, strong sales to get me to that next level and being able to grow, you know, and for what I see in the future of in the future of myself. But it has definitely been a great opportunity that I've been given, and fully trying to take full advantage of it for sure.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Like it, yes, all the things you said, and just like sparking. I'm like, it's so great. Just seeing you grow, definitely. Props to Sabine and Mandela Partners,
Yes.
because like without them, we would have no you, or at the market at least, you know. So it's just like having that community partnership and that communication and just working together all together has just been great on our end. And glad to hear that it's going great on your end. And
Yeah, and to give a little credit also to Foodwise, you guys were literally so welcoming. I mean, I know I would tell Sabine, like, I don't know, are you sure? Like, they want me to be there? They're asking me to be a part. Like, so to once I got introduced and I came up, I would also say to those who are looking forward, and they're wanting to implement small entrepreneur and into their farmers markets, or they're wanting to incorporate programs as such that I've been through, having the people to also be welcoming, you know, and also saying, hey, you're going to be fine. You're going to be okay. Like, I was able to go to the Ferry Building like a weekend or the week before I was officially going to be a vendor there, and just kind of look to kind of see where things were. If I needed hot water, cold water, where the trash was, where my setup was going to be, just really kind of taking me in to say, hey, you're going to be fine. We want you here. We want you to feel comfortable and want you to be a part. So I have to, and you guys come by, you know, if not every week, you stop by when you're there to just kind of say, hey, how are you? Everything okay? So yeah, having to give credit to Foodwise as well, as being so welcoming and open, to me, you know, I really appreciate that too.
thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's my pleasure, our entire team's pleasure. Whatever you want, we got you. So any way we can support, yeah, definitely. My next question is, well, I mean, you kind of covered a lot of it, like the tips you would have for upcoming entrepreneurs. You know, so you could give any more tips that come to mind.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I think the first thing I would say is just don't give up,
Mm,
because it's a lot of challenges out there, you know, whether they're personal challenges or professional challenges. Just every day, you really have to see it through. I mean, there was many times, I mean, many a times where I felt like I'm just not going to get into this commercial kitchen. Like, no matter who I'm talking to, people would say, yeah, call me back. And I would call back and they wouldn't answer, or they would say, hey, so to kind of look back, and I still have a good bit of things that I'm still working on to continue to grow. But just even getting here now and looking back, just 6 months ago, I was like, wow, it really is just a don't give up kind of thing. And it sounds so cliche, but it's like, you just got to kind of see yourself through it, you know?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
probably another thing is just remembering to show up. And I kind of probably learned this. I kind of had it for myself, but I got to give props to Sabine. I mean, just really having a coach to really just kind of be there to guide you, but also kind of like, hey, you're going to do the work or you're not going to do the work, and just really be real with you. I mean, that really is what people need when they really are just trying to have a supportive base, whether that's coming from, a professional organization or personal. People really need that. And every time I met, they were just there, and so I really just appreciate that. But also, again, it just really is showing up for yourself. The one-on-one coaching had required like a commitment of meeting like once a week for a couple of hours. And also doing the advising programs, even just being a part of the market, having to be there at 8 a.m. I live in Oakland, so I'm having to make sure that I'm up and being there on time, and communicating if something comes up. So it's just about being accountable for what I want, not giving up and seeing myself through it. And just, yeah, just keep going for it, just keep going for it.
definitely. Thanks, Sierra. What's
You're
next? All
welcome.
right. So yeah, what's next for your business? Like, what's your vision and or your dreams like long term?
Yeah. So I literally was just like surprised when I was offered like a permanent spot at the farmers market just recently. Because that had kind of been like a goal that me and Sabine had talked about, was just for now, while I'm still like in a sense in the still early stages. This is year 3 of, in a sense, of like the whole concept and idea, and like year 2 of real sales. But it really is just like me figuring like, okay, now that I have this, how can I really maximize it and really kind of put into play of getting a bigger cart? I'm really at this point, in a sense, kind of not kind of outgrowing the cart. It really is like a beginner cart. And there is like some things that I would need to change for the cart, that it just makes sense to just go bigger. And so that is the next goal to be working on, is just being able to go bigger. And then also being able to hire like a full staff, because I think with the vision that I have of going bigger, I probably wouldn't be able to do all of the prep and do everything in it. So it's also being able to say, you're going to be in a space of growing, so you have to kind of be ready to be open to receive the responsibility that comes with growth, and not just now continuing to operate as a one person's team, in a sense. So definitely looking to grow and all around, grow the customer base, grow the business, grow the staff, grow my own future for it. That's where I am. It's just like the year of growth for sure.
Yes, definitely the year of growth. Thank you so much, Sierra. All right. And so move to our last slide here, where you can let folks know how they can stay in touch with you.
Yep, yep, yep. I am most active on Instagram, but I have my website here at Mango Say. You can always go. I usually post up the schedule weekly there. And there's also like a little button that you could also send personal messages to, and it'll come directly to my email. And whether you need, I don't know, you might need a vendor, somebody who needs, mango, or if you just want to reach out to maybe get it further advice. I mean, hey, I'm still in the stages of, motivation and keeping it going for myself, but I could always be of support, or, whatever, so hey, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sierra. I really appreciate it.
Yes,
Everybody,
thank
please come
you.
check Sierra out, and follow her on Instagram, visit her on or visit her website. And yes, thank you all so much for everything. All right, on to our next slide here. All right, so our questions and discussions. I know we have about 7 minutes left. So folks have any questions? It looks like we have a couple here. How can organizations like California Alliance of Farmers Markets support BIPOC entrepreneurs? I mean, I would think like holding these conferences helps, having BIPOC panelists, but in other ways, I don't know, Sabine,
Yeah.
Samiha, if you want, jump in at any time.
Sure, and I'll let Sabine share more as well, but I'm not super familiar with the work that California Alliance for Farmers Markets is already doing, so you might already have this in place, but some of the things I'm thinking of are just creating funds and really dedicating funds to minimize barriers for BIPOC entrepreneurs to open up some of those sales channels and host trainings. Yeah, Sabine, I don't know if you have other thoughts.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And also, if you're an alliance of farmers markets, you can build coalitions. So I think also ultimately understanding what your coalition needs, because I think different people have different barriers on the ground that they're working through, and how as a larger coalition, as an organization supporting people, you can help to move things along. Yeah. And feel free to add some more Q&A if that didn't feel satisfactory.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Sabine and Samiha. The next question from Foodshed is Mandela a co-op? How do you all think about leveraging businesses, operations, organizational resources, and to build community wealth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll share firstly that we're not a co-op, although we did support the Mandela Grocery Co-op. We served as kind of like her incubator space to support them in that. But yeah, and Sabine, feel free to add more thoughts on that. I think in terms of leveraging business operations or organizational resources for building community wealth, again, for me and my work with the farmers, it's really looked like kind of taking the risk on organizationally and serving as a space where the BIPOC producers and farmers wouldn't have to take on that risk individually. So that means if we're doing loans, we often will take on the loan fee, the interest fee, so that the farmers don't have to do that. And that we are the ones responsible. Ultimately, we will be liable if loans are defaulted from other organizations, and that kind of helps build a barrier between farmers and helps them release some of the risk that we're willing to take on for them.
Thanks, Samiha.
Go
for it.
Sorry, I just add that specifically, when I think about businesses, I think about a community, I think about a place. And so to that point, I think about like, what are the ways that people can internally leverage their resources, be that like material as well as kind of those intangible resources. And then I think more specifically on the level of place and community, what are the ways in which you might need to leverage or advocate within your cities or, county domains to access resources. And at least I know, there are different organizations doing political organizing around that. And so that feels like another added layer. But in the very, very least, talking to your neighbors, talking to the local businesses is just a really good place to start and seeing where people are at and what they need. So 100%.
Thanks, Sabine. We have a couple more minutes here. But yes, we went and those are the only questions that we had in the Q&A. But yes, is there anything folks feel like we didn't cover? And a question for everyone: how are you advancing equity at your farmers markets? What efforts or tips do you want to share? So wait around a little bit for questions if they come in. Does anyone in the session participate in beginning farmers apprenticeship program or for starting to sell at farmers markets? I'm thinking of creating one in partnership with the local farmer incubator program. This is from Hester Parker. I think AIM has one. I'm in Monterey County, everyone's harvest.
I do not, like, through Mandela, we don't really participate in beginning farmer apprenticeship programs. Yeah, I am actually not super familiar with any of those programs here. I know that there's some in other states, other places that I've lived. One kind of program I'm thinking of is the Agroecology Commons. That does support that. And yeah, KTA, Kitchen Table Advisors, does some of that work. I think that's more kind of, from my understanding, like much more closely one-on-one work.
Well, yeah, I was going to mention Kitchen Table Advisors too. And we have another question for Sierra. How many farmers markets do you sell at? Different farmers markets?
Right now, I'm just at the Ferry Building Farmers Market, the Ferry Plazas Farmers Market. This is, I've been operating at this farmers market since October of last year. And I'll probably just continue to focus on this one right now as I still kind of get into the groove of things of being here. But for now, it's just this one.
Thank you, thank you. So please make sure you stop by and get your mango goodies at the market on Saturday, everybody. All right, I'd like to thank everyone and CAF and Small Farm Conference. We are at time. We really appreciate you all. So yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, panel. Thank you so much all for being here and sharing all your different perspectives and all your backgrounds and experiences. We really enjoy this. And I think most of us can agree that now we want to eat mangoes after this workshop is done. So thank you so much all for being here, and to our participants, we hope to see you in other workshops. Till next time.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.